Welcome to Engineering Influence, a podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies. I'm Jeff Urbanchuk, your host. And today we're very pleased and excited to be delving into an issue that is of the top of mind to our entire industry. And that is the engineering workforce and the shortage we're seeing and making sure the pipeline is filled for the next generation of engineers. Now, according to the ACEC Research Institute, since engineering degrees peaked in 2019, they've dropped by about 10,000. Moreover, retirements have left us with an annual gap of 18,000 engineers, especially in core fields. This is something that is persistent. We're measuring it, and it is a concern for the entire industry. We're going to tackle in this conversation how to reignite student interest in engineering, while also competing with so many other fields that are competing for the talent and the thinking that goes into a lot of these degrees. How to meet expectations of the next generation, what the industry is doing now, what it could be doing, and looking how we can partner and partner with both academia and industry to solve the challenge. To help us answer the question and to delve into it, I'm joined by three experts. Morgan Mundell, he's with ACEC Missouri. Dr. Joel Birkin from Missouri Science and Technology, and Shauna Erter with SCI Engineering for a bit of a moderated discussion here. And together we're going to tackle these questions and see some of the unique things that Missouri is doing right now to tackle the workforce shortage. So everyone, thank you again for joining us today. I really appreciate you joining us on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
So let's kick this off first, Morgan and Joel, with the project that's going on here. It's a new strategic partnership between ACEC Missouri and Missouri Science and Technology. Talk to us a little bit about what this is and frame that for us.
Sure. We were invited in to kind of discuss what we saw as far as the workforce development by Morgan and ACEC to talk at one of the statewide meetings or conferences. And it really kind of came up that we had very similar interests and concerns. And at the same time, I was working with American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, nationally with all the civil engineering departments and looking at some of the same trends at how our workforce just was not meeting the needs of the profession. And that's where the partnership kind of kicked off, from asking for a little bit of an informational talk from the academic side. Morgan and I started getting to go on how to fix it.
And so, Jeff, how we got to where we're at today, my oldest son, who's 17, actually attended an engineering camp at Missouri S&T. And the board and the staff of ACEC Missouri had discussed this for a number of years. I mean, what can we actually do that's effective? What's sustainable? How do you fix the engineering pipeline? And if you look at your average ACEC MO, you're talking about 2 staff people. It's a huge challenge that's taking place. And so when I took my son and dropped him off at engineering camp down at Missouri S&T, it kind of occurred to me, it was like, ACEC Missouri can't do this on its, we don't have the time, the staff, the resources. But as I was dropping my son off, I'm watching this entire process that they have people who bring, the kids into the dorms and they've got the curriculum and they've got the vans and the cafeterias to feed people. And so Dr. Birkin and I kind of hatched this idea out there that, hey, let's not just do the students, let's teach the teachers, and let's bring some teachers in to try and, put a sustainable aspect, into our Missouri's higher education system.
You made a good point here related to the MOs. A lot of the time it is a small staff and they're handling a lot of issues, policy issues at the State House. They're handling other events and things that happen from the association perspective. But then you have this large issue of workforce that is out there, and it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of manpower to really address the issue. Yeah, how explain that a little bit more from your perspective as a member organization executive, and then also whether Missouri has any unique challenges that sets it apart or things that differentiate it from other states.
I'm not sure that we have that much that's probably that unique compared to other states. I mean, I talked to other MO execs and, the leadership of other MOs in other parts of the country. And, this is very much a common theme. I think Missouri specific challenges. We have a very tight budget right now. We have cuts that are being proposed for, some institutions of higher ed. And I think that other challenges are just with younger people today, there's so much more access to social media, to computers. When I was a kid, I certainly didn't have a phone that could pull up all the kinds of information that it does. And I think that makes any industry that's working to get people into it have to work that much harder, either through social media, through direct outreach, through programs like this.
Yeah. It's interesting because a couple of weeks back, we had an event during Engineers Week on the Hill, and we had someone from the Education and Workforce Committee who is also an academic who came in and talked to us. And one of the things they really drove home and what kind of fed into this conversation we're having here is the fact that, there's a window of time, it seems, at least in this individual gave us kind of his perspective, that there's a certain period of time when kids are young that engineering and the sciences and everything is still an abstract term because they don't know all the intricacies of math and everything like that, but they understand it in an abstract sense and they're very interested in it. And they see that there's a future in it. They're creative. And then all of a sudden, the parents don't see or don't understand what engineering is, and they don't recognize it as a career path. And then the teachers aren't equipped to help nurture that interest and keep that going. So a partnership where you're focused on teaching the teachers seems to be a great way of addressing that issue right there at the heart of it. Joel, what would you think about that?
Yeah, that's one of the big pushes that we'll talk about today is changing the narrative that engineering is not a math and science field. It utilizes math and science, but we're problem solvers and we make the world a better place. We invest our time and talent into our communities, through projects to improve those. And I think if we kind of take that message through teachers and to our students, hopefully we can get more students earlier in the pipeline that are interested in truly making a difference again in that community and making the world a better place as far as the overall scope. And yes, you need math and science, but it is not a math and science degree.
Sean, I want to bring you into the conversation both as a board member at ACEC Missouri and then also as a firm leader yourself. What are you seeing in terms of competition for talent and kind of the new next generation, or what the young engineers are looking for in the industry and how you're addressing securing that pipeline of future talent for your firm?
Yeah, absolutely. We're very excited about this program, and it really does kind of hit the heart of what is needed. I've been a part of speaking at middle schools and high schools and universities for years, and you can reach a student here or there. You get one that you can mentor, but it's a long path and it's slow. And right now, talking about the shortages that we have, it's just not enough. And so this is great. What we're seeing right now is, I mean, obviously you talked about the shortage in engineers that are in the industry, ones that are coming out of the university. When we're making offers to students coming out of the university, they may have 7 or 8 different job offers. It's all of our firms competing for the same person. And then even when they are in the industry and they've been working for a few years, maybe it's 3 or 4, or maybe it's 10 years, it's still all of our companies competing for the same person. And we're just taking that person from one company to another. Everybody's trying to fill the same void. Personally, we've had multiple engineering positions that we've had open for 2+ years because we cannot find the talent to fill the void. And that is a detriment to our company. It's a detriment to the industry. And it's changing the way we have to do business. And it's definitely an issue. And like Joel said, if we can get to these kids earlier and help them understand that it's math and science and it is those things, but that's not the key to it. It's creativity. It's thinking outside the box. It's coming up with solutions. That's what they want to do. But a lot of them, again, the teachers and the counselors aren't aware that that's really what engineering is. They think engineering, if you didn't have the top SAT score, you probably shouldn't even apply to an engineering school because you're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And that's not the truth. And we need them to understand that instead of directing kids away, is directing them into it and letting them look at it, let them understand it, let them see what it is. And by engaging these teachers so that they're better equipped to answer the kids' questions and to do programs during class. That's what we're hoping to be able to provide.
Yeah, anecdotally, my brother's a teacher in Pennsylvania, and he teaches what used to be considered, shop, wood shop, and kind of the hands-on, just building things out of materials, and then they changed it to STEM, and they put an engineering component into it, and they're trying to bridge that gap in his school district to try to get science and technology, engineering into that, so they can open that up, but before that program existed, there really was no early education in engineering. And it really does show that the importance to get to the teachers to teach them about what engineering is and how it's a valuable career path for their students. So let's dig into that Teach the Teacher camp, Joel. So give us a little bit of breakdown of how that works and how you have that structured.
So we have a very active summer camp program here, but it's, again, mostly focused on students coming in. And the kind of concept that I think Morgan and I just chatted with over a discussion at one point was, why don't we get more teachers in? Because as they go back to their schools, they're going to be in front of, tens or hundreds of students per year, and they can take some of that back with them. And then really the discussion got to, well, what do they take back with them? And we're a very unique campus. We've got 19 different or more engineering pathways on campus and degree programs. So we're looking at least 6 different modules that the teachers will essentially partake in, and they'll be focused more thematic than just a discipline program. So look at energy. Well, energy takes into it electrical engineers, petroleum engineers, civil engineers for the infrastructure, and more computer science and computer engineers for the control, so to say, and focus on those themes, and then say, you can have an impact on some of our greatest challenges as a student. But when the teacher takes that back, they'll have these modules and there'll be physical hands-on demonstrations of what engineering is in these themes. So again, environment, energy, materials, mechanics type of thing. And that will bring it into the classroom and make it real, hopefully early enough in the pathway where the students will get excited to find out more about those pathways to be impactful in some of our greatest challenges that we face, locally and globally. How are we going to provide power? Just using that energy as an example, how are we going to provide power to the state of Missouri? That takes a lot of professionals and engineers along the way. How do we provide clean water and sanitation for our big cities? How do we have infrastructure and transportation? And those are all more than just a degree. It's an entire profession. So the better teachers can understand that profession and all the different pathways to get there, and the contributors, the better we're going to be able to get students more excited about this, and again, broaden that pipeline so that we've got earlier connection to students and more students on that path. Because right now the number of graduates in the country is dropping. Missouri is on the lower side of that, as far as we're going to lose more high school graduates, and fewer of those students are interested in engineering overall. So we've got to turn the tide. We've got to change that message and get students excited about it early, and stay on that path and get more in that pipeline.
Yeah, and Jeff, you asked a little bit about the difference and how do you keep those students engaged, and Morgan talked about his son. My daughter is actually graduating from Missouri S&T in May. And so I was able to watch her path and her progression, and the questions that she would come back home to me, even when she was in middle school and high school, and gave me a clear understanding that the teachers and the counselors didn't really even know what direction to tell them. They didn't understand enough to answer her questions. So I was lucky enough to be able to go in and talk to her friends and her and some of them about that. But not everybody's going to have that opportunity. And here, what we're doing is giving the teachers that ability to be able to answer those questions and direct them. And really what I've seen through her progression and the students that we've hired, I would say over the last 5 to 10 years is the real difference that we can see is these students don't just want to do the work and go home. They don't want to just take the paycheck and then go do something else. They want to change the world. They want to know they're making a difference. They want to know they're making the world better. And so part of our goal is to help them see how engineering does make the world better and how it changes it, and how being a part of that profession is really what they're looking
Yeah.
for.
We hear that a lot. I mean, we always hear that the younger cohort coming in, it's that change. They want a mission. They want to feel as though what they're doing has value beyond themselves. Few professions offer that, like engineering. The fact that you can have a tangible benefit in the community in which you live, the fact that you can actually help design systems and things that will outlast outlast your career. You're gonna look back and show kids and grandkids what you did in terms of infrastructure. So it is really getting that message across. Morgan, I mean, with this kind of a program, and Shauna kind of alluded to it, it's a great opportunity for our member firms to go in and actually help solidify that message. How has this shifted the way that you might encourage firms to engage with teachers and with school programs?
Well, I think that that was one of the selling points when we first discussed the program was, this is an opportunity for your firm to not just increase, the engineering pipeline, but you're supporting your local community, and to have the opportunity to go in for a member firm and talk to their school principal or their school superintendent and say, my firm wants to sponsor, one of your teachers to go do this. So, I think that has changed that. We do have a number of firms that are going into the schools, like Shauna had said. In the state of Missouri right now, we have record transportation funding. All I hear about is how busy, these engineering firms are. And I see them do things. But, as Shauna had said, you go in, you do it one time and you hit one or two, maybe if you're lucky. How sustainable is that when everyone is as busy as they are? And so we've tried to, kind of change the narrative in Missouri that it's not just about going in and talking to students. We know you're busy. We know you've got a lot going on. We need you to, open your checkbook and, let's put a true program in place and make this happen. And my commitment to Dr. Birkin was we would raise sponsorships or scholarships for at least 20. We've already had 27 firms step forward. I mean, we're already ahead of the curve. There's been a lot of excitement about this. And I think that our members see, the value in both, the civic side, supporting their local community, supporting their local school system, and at the same time being able to fill the engineering pipeline and hopefully increase more graduation of future engineers.
That's fantastic. The fact that you were able to get so many firms so quickly. And Shauna, if you could add to that, I mean, what would you say to your peers in the industry to say, why they should get engaged with this, why they should help support a program of this type to help fill that future pipeline of engineering workers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's an engineer on the planet or that's going to listen to this that doesn't want to help and doesn't understand the need. And I'm sure just like I was before this program really kind of came to light, struggling to understand how I could make a difference, trying to go into the schools, trying to be a part of organizations and committees, but just not feeling like you're getting traction. And this program gives you an opportunity, not only with your financials to be able to sponsor a teacher, but you can turn this into whatever you want. So, for our firm, the teacher that we sponsor, we plan to have them come into our building and learn about what we do and go meet them at their school and talk to their students and really get engaged with that teacher for the length of their career and get that connection to them. And so, not only does it solve a problem, but it gives your firm the feeling that you're making a difference. You're doing what you can, and it gives you a connection to, instead of just one or two students, a teacher who's, like I said, teaching multiple classes every day. And that's all I think any of us want to do is solve problems. That's who we are. And this gives us a chance to solve a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great solution because, I mean, a lot of the times, the teachers, they, knowing a few teachers myself and middle school teachers, they're always looking for something, course curricula or materials that they can present to their students. It's not a lack of interest. It's a lack of having anything on hand to use or having the background to use it. They're eager to have it. And if our industry can help supply it, it's a great way just to solve and to fill an existing demand that we may not immediately realize. So having a program like this that does take it away from the firms, because our firms do a fantastic job, especially during Engineering Week, E-Week every February, getting out there and doing events, but it can't be a 1 week a year touch point. It's got to be a constant thing. And a program like this definitely helps drive that always on presence. Morgan, do you think this could be a part of a kind of a pilot program for other MOs to emulate? I mean, how do you think this could scale nationwide with ACEC and the Federation being a distribution channel?
Well, I definitely think it can be scaled out. In fact, it would be my goal of, once Dr. Burke and I and our partners at MoDOT, we get one or two of these under our belt. I think that, not to speak for Dr. Birkin, but I think we would both definitely be willing to share the lessons learned and to go into other MOs and other parts of the nation to try and scale this up, because, we can do a great bang up job in Missouri and increase our numbers, but it's still the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
We have to look at this program. We have to look at this challenge and this problem from a national perspective as well, not just at the state level.
Yeah. And it's going to take time. I mean, this is a problem that has grown over a period of time, and it's going to take a period of time to address and solve. It's not an overnight solution, but it's the kind of thing once you establish and you grow over time, it becomes an integral part of a curricula for any teacher out there who's looking to help kids and their students kind of figure out what their future is going to be. I guess what's the next step here? Because you do have a lot of firms that are engaged. You have a program set. Joel and really the whole group. I mean, how do you want this to evolve and grow?
Well, we're looking to get the first one off the ground first. So once we successfully do that, then we'll grow it. But one of the commitments we asked for early on, and then Morgan helped us push through to the companies, and Missouri Department of Transportation as the core funder so far, was that this was going to be like a 3-year effort, that we weren't going to do this once and then scramble to hope we can do it again. So we are planning to repeat this, and to get the teachers on campus is going to be big. So to share, that understanding that yes, we're a theory based and we have, math and science in our curricula, but they're going to be able to come here. They're going to go into an experimental mine. We've got a, mining engineering here, and they'll go on the mine. They get to see a nuclear reactor. They'll get to see full-scale infrastructure testing and how we build things with 3D printing of concrete. And to see that breadth of campus and really get a touch for that, and learn how green infrastructure, how we build better cities through green roof technology or other water management systems in urban settings and transportation, that's going to make it a lot more real. And we've got fields from everything from architectural engineering to biomedical to nuclear. So it's going to give a little bit more breadth to that feeling as well. And then really translate that to how that leads to protecting our citizenry and improving the lives of our community and the world. I think that's the core message, that we want to get teachers to have that. And hopefully it grows, that this cohort isn't just the only ones, that they take it to others in their schools. And then we get another cohort in the next year that really kind of get that across. And I'd echo what Shauna was saying, that this is our goal is to hopefully have some engineers connected to each of the teachers that are here, that then bring it into their community, so that the students in the high schools can say, yeah, these are people in our community that are doing this. This isn't something that's off just on one university campus or somewhere that's distant to us. This is local. So acting locally and impacting globally is one of the messages we really want to get across there as well. And our hope is that long term, we can see this grow, that it's not just the people that get to go through the program, that it helps inoculate, so to say, that spirit of interest, and that the kids are inquisitive and curious about what they can do in their world. And then once that happens and you've got talent, great things will follow up from that, I think.
From a industry standpoint, Shauna, I mean, how would you like to see firms across the state become more involved and hopefully grow along with this program as it matures?
Yeah, we would love to see, again, really just the engineers and the firms getting connected in to the schools and to those teachers and bringing them into their buildings and showing them what engineers really do. They're going to see a piece of it from the campus and all the amazing things that Missouri S&T does, but then to see how that relays into real life and in the plans and the projects that we're working on, and really get to know the teachers so that the teachers have someone to ask questions. And that's really what, at least for me personally, I want to make that connection and that relationship with those teachers so that they have someone they can ask, hey, could you come in and talk about this? Or I had a student ask this question and I don't know how to answer it. What should I tell them? That they have that outlet and they're comfortable with that. And that would be our goal, is that, each one of these companies is making that connection. And at that point, we're connected to most of the school districts across the state and continue to spread that. And we're giving these teachers the support that they need to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Morgan, from a member organization perspective, I mean, how would you like the Federation to support you in this? I mean, what would your hope be for, helping to get this going and growing, and how ACEC National or the larger group of NACE, which is, for those who are not aware, the kind of the group of member organizations within the ACEC Federation, how they could to help support it. And then also, you mentioned at the outset of the conversation, kind of working first with ASCE, strategic partners beyond ACEC. What other organizations do you think might be good to bring in over time?
Well, Dr. Birkin had already brought up ASCE. Obviously, they could be a great partner. And I know he's working with a couple of other organizations. I think as far as the Federation is concerned, I mean, again, going back, once we learned some lessons and taking this, now we're very lucky in the fact that we have Missouri S&T in Missouri, which already has these programs of processing groups of people through cohorts and classes. Not everyone is going to have that, that ability or access to, that type of infrastructure with, dorms and cafeterias and whatnot. But, helping other MOs, try and set up even similar programs, to try and teach the teacher. 3 years ago, we donated $7,500 worth of STEM kits to high schools throughout the state. And the teachers were so excited to have this classroom material that they could use. And that was one of the very first things that Dr. Birkin and I had talked about was how, teachers do a lot in America. And, you hear the stories about teachers spending money out of their own pockets on classroom materials and cuts to local education. If we can give that $250 bridge building kit that's super cool and give that to that teacher and have that teacher take it back to their classroom, that's just a step ahead of where we would have been, 12 or 18 months ago.
Yeah. I agree 100%. I mean, I know that from experience, just watching kind of source materials or trying to figure out different ways to fill areas of the curriculum with hands-on experiential things, and this is a great example of ways that as an organization, we can put, thought to action, and we can actually reach out and supply local schools with materials to help start the process of getting this part of the educational process in the school year. It would be great to just to check back, of course, and see after, the program, gets, has its footing and you have some lessons learned, to kind of see exactly what those lessons are and to kind of touch back on this conversation to see where we are down the line. I do want to look at the industry and kind of look at what needs to happen to kind of change the way that we attract people, or at least we shift expectations of what the younger generation of engineers are coming in to, what they're expecting in terms of culture, in terms of expectations. Shauna, from your perspective, is the industry doing enough to kind of change with the times to adapt to demands of hybrid work or more focused on technology and that culture of having a direct impact early on in the roles at engineering firms? I mean, how do you think the engineering industry is doing in that regard?
To be even honest, I really feel like they've done incredibly well. I mean, they were hit with it very quickly and had to change very quickly. And we all know how much engineers love change. So that It was not not the easiest thing for us, but to look at where we were in, say, 2019 and where we are now with just the way these companies are run, the flexibility, the hybrid work, the attention to family first, and the ability to let these students and young engineers be a part of the community and get involved in organizations and get out so that they are seeing their purpose. I think they've done incredibly well. Now, we're never going to be done. It's always going to be changing. Every generation that comes through, it's changing a little more, and we have to keep adapting. And sometimes the pendulum swings really far one way and you need to come back a little bit the other. But I feel like as an industry, we've done really well trying to listen and understand the differences. And again, when you look at our engine, the industry as a whole, we've got so many different generations and they're all trying to work together. And they all have completely different ideas about what a workday is and what work-life balance is and all of those things. But I've been extremely impressed at how well they've all worked together and tried to listen to each other and adapt to those changes. So I'm excited for the future and where they take it from here.
And Joel, if you could build on that from your perspective in the academy.
Yeah. So one of the kind of the pushes, within this whole context is the message matters, and to change that narrative of what our profession is. And like Shauna was saying, it's more welcoming to a wider variety of people too. And we need to get all the talent we can on board. And it kind of harkens back to, when I was starting school, more than a year ago, one of the context, freshman class was look to the left, you look to the right of you. And what was one of you is not going to be here by the time we get to the end. It's almost like a washout, like an honor to get to the end. And now that message is look to the left of you, look to the right of you. Now you three need to go out and get 3 more people and bring them back to the room to build the workforce we need. Because as we've gotten more technological, we need more engineers. We've got more challenges. We're facing global challenges. We need more people that are capable to do impactful work like this. So that message that yes, engineering is far more welcoming than I think the traditional vision was of the profession, and trying to get more students. And one of the pushes we've had is to try to find more talent that maybe didn't have a teacher who encouraged them to get into engineering, but they're talented enough. And if we can give them, a stepping stone to say, you didn't get the support you needed through your high school, through your community, but let's get you into a program that you take a year and you get ready to jump into a Missouri S&T or to a hardcore engineering school. And I think that's, like Shauna was saying, that's where the profession can also maybe kind of check our humility a little bit and start to say we do make a difference in our community and broader, and to try to encourage more people to step up and again make a difference like that. And you do have to have the technical capabilities to solve some of the problems we have. And we're solving, the grand challenges of our planet at a local scale many times, and some of the wicked problems. And that's a definition of some of the things that we're facing, with resilience in our infrastructure through to the future of energy. How are we going to do all of that? We need more people. We need to change that narrative and the message that if you have talent and you have interest and you have drive, bring it, and we'll get you there as an academic field then to give you the skill sets and the knowledge you need to do some great things.
Well, that's a great way to pull it together, Joel. I want to, before we'll wrap up, I want to make sure that make sure we didn't miss anything. Is there anything else you want to add about this partnership and kind of the impact that it's going to have on the state of Missouri and the workforce there?
I'll take a shot. I think just building off what it just said about, expanding the message, it is great to see this partnership that, through Morgan and ACEC, we're getting this message to, engineers across it, but also the boardrooms to say that we need to, as companies, kind of own this and really step up and do that. And to see Shauna on there as one of the leaders and an alum and a mom of one of our students here, we see that bridging that goes across that to say, yes, we're going to get more talent in the pipeline and meet the needs of our society and of our profession.
Morgan, Shauna, anything to add?
I think that simply presenting this program and process. I think that it makes people like Shauna and as Dr. Bergen said, the boardrooms really see this opportunity and they think, wow, they're once again reminded we have a problem and the problem has to be fixed. And, to dedicate time and resources towards actually fixing the problem. It's so easy, to lose sight on a daily basis because you come in, you've got a project on your desk or you've got a project team meeting that you've got to take care of. I think that this is one of the reasons why we have trade associations, to support industries is for, people like myself and my staff to come up with ideas like this to help support Dr. Birkin and form a coalition the way that we have in Missouri to help address this issue and this problem.
Absolutely. And like I said, from our standpoint, being one company going out, trying to make a difference, you almost feel like you're hitting a brick wall over and over again and you've tried and you're not getting there. But then when you bring all of our companies together through this organization to say, hey, we have a problem, let's solve it together. Instead of each one of you trying to do little things on your own, let's solve it together. And we've said it a million times, nothing engineers love better than solving a problem. So you put it in front of us and all of a sudden there's an idea where it's not just us, but it's the entire industry working together to solve a problem. And I think that's why you've seen so much excitement and so many companies jump on board so quickly. They're excited to change the future.
And it is great to see three organizations, both ACEC Missouri, Missouri S&T, and of course, our engineering industry within the state of Missouri addressing this issue. And I'm very pleased to have been joined by Morgan Mundell with ACEC Missouri, Dr. Joel Birkin with Missouri S&T, and Shauna Erger with SCI Engineering in the state of Missouri. And again, this has been Engineering Influence podcast from the American Council of Engineering Companies, and we'll see you next time.